need one of these at home. If I can get the crowd to get that quiet that quickly. All right, welcome everybody to the August Municipal Planning Commission meeting for the City of Franklin. Thanks for being here. We will have several items tonight. I want to just, since we got so many folks here, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks that want to speak to the commission, I want to kind of start with some ground rules for everybody so we can all be civil and we can hear what you say and we can all have good discourse. But the when we have an item heard, we'll first hear from our staff, and they'll give their comments about the project. Then I'll open the floor to citizens in the audience that want to speak. When I do that, if you would start lining up at the podium, and then when your time is come up, if you'll tell us your name, where you live, and then there's a beautiful red sign over here on my right that gives you 2 minutes to speak. So if you'll respect that, then I'll be glad to respect you guys. And regardless, I'm going to respect you. But we'd like for everybody to keep their comments to 2 minutes or less. And then if you have heard 5 or 10 people already say what you're thinking, then you don't necessarily need to repeat it. We're fairly smart folks up here. I think the ones that aren't here tonight. But no, I'm kidding. That's kidding, really. So again, we appreciate you being here, and we'll start our meeting with the minutes for July. If I can get a motion.
Move for approval. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's an item that's not on tonight's agenda that you want to speak to the commission on, please come forward and we'll hear your comments. See no movement, so we're going to move on to announcements. Staff?
Good evening. I just have one announcement tonight, that there will be a special joint conceptual workshop with the Planning Commission and Board of Mayor and Aldermen on September 19th from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the City Hall training room. I hope to see you all there, and it will be related to the discussion on the proposed zoning ordinance, specifically talking about the new zoning map, as well as the site plan triggers and who the review bodies would be.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is items that are not on tonight's agenda that someone would like to put on the agenda or be considered for the agenda. If you have those, if you'll come forward. Something that came up last night and you just wanted to talk to us about it, come on forward. Otherwise, we will move on. All right, now we have what we call our consent agenda, which is items that are considered non-controversial. We'll vote on those all at one time. If anybody in the audience, staff, or commission wants to pull an item from our consent agenda, please let me know now. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now, just to clarify, these are items 2 through 6 and 10 through 12 that we'll be voting on in an approval perspective with this motion. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, that moves us then to items number 7, and I'm going to recuse myself from 7, 8, and 9, so I will be back in a little bit and turn the floor over to our Vice Chair, Roger.
Okay, item number 7, the consideration of ordinance 2019-27, an ordinance to rezone 38.66 acres from a state residential ER district to agricultural AG district for the property located north of Old Charlotte Pike, east of future Machatcher Parkway, and west of Carlisle Lane. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Envision Franklin identifies this land in the Conservation Subdivision, which describes these areas of the city as having higher quantities of environmental resources in rural areas or along the periphery of the city that are desired to be preserved. Less dense development, planned with large contiguous tracts of open space to be retained in perpetuity, is expected in these locations. It is staff's understanding that the county wishes to use the site for their animal facility, a use permitted under the agricultural zoning district. The fact that this is an institutional use and has a low scale use on such a large tract of land supports the vision of the conservation subdivision design concept. The applicant is aware that they should they wish to expand beyond the animal facility use, they will be required to file a rezoning to the Civic Institutional Zoning District and submit a PUD development plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item tonight? If you would, please come to the lectern and tell us your name and address. Seeing none, is there someone here representing the applicant?
Good evening. I'm Ryan McMaster with Kimley Horn, representing the county today, and be happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay. Do we have a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
You have a proper motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jennifer. Is there any discussion?
I guess the comment that this is planned to be part of their animal control.
Yes, ma'am, they're planning a shelter on this property.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? So you have a motion for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
I guess our motion was to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Sorry.
Bowman has to approve it.
Okay. Item number 8, consideration of ordinance 2019-29, an ordinance to rezone 6.22 acres from specific development residential, SDR district, to specific development residential 14.31 district for the property located north of Mallory Station Road and east of Sunrise Circle at 200 Mallory Station Road, the Oak Brook PUD subdivision, previously noticed as Mallory Station PUD subdivision. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The applicant is requesting to rezone this property for the purpose of a new attached residential development. The Envision Franklin Land Use Plan places this parcel in the multifamily residential design concept. Envision Franklin states the multifamily residential design concept provides for a range of housing types that offer both for sale and for rent options across a range of price points. Staff finds the proposed rezoning to accommodate the planned multifamily development is appropriate. A development plan for the Oak Brook PUD subdivision has been submitted concurrently with the rezoning. Staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item tonight? Seeing none, is there someone representing the applicant?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jose Kreutz. I'm managing partner of the mixed-use division of Thompson Thrift Development, Indianapolis, Indiana. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have a motion for this item?
Move for approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Do you have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Okay, item number 9, consideration of resolution 2019-77, a resolution approving a development plan for Oak Brook PUD subdivision for the property located north of Mallory Station Road and east of Sunrise Circle at 200 Mallory Station Road, previously noticed as Mallory Station PUD subdivision. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The applicant has submitted a development plan for the property located north of Mallory Station and east of Sunrise Circle. The parcel currently has a single-family residential use. Envision Franklin states for the multi-residential design concept that these areas provides for a range of housing types, both for sale and for rent options across a range of price points. Buildings should be sited or designed to create public spaces that are easily accessible from adjacent streets or sidewalks. and dwellings within new developments should provide an appropriate mix of cohesive architectural styles and building materials that enhance the city's character. Architecture should contain a rich blending of designs that complement each other yet not be overly repetitive. The applicant has proposed a townhome development consisting of 89 attached residential units and 7 open space lots. The plan largely meets the recommendations of Envision Franklin by creating formal public spaces with a wide variety of architectural styles. The overall layout maintains alley-loaded residences and establishes a vehicular connection to Avenida of Cool Springs. Another main objective of the multifamily residential design concept is to maintain the context and establish character of existing neighborhoods and surrounding areas through transitional features. The applicant has responded to this by limiting the height of adjacent structures to the Morningside subdivision to 2 stories. As a project consideration, the development plan has outstanding information on how the site will be served by sewer. City staff has had several discussions with the applicant on how best to achieve this. However, no sewer plan was submitted with the development plan. The applicant will be required to comply with staff's conditions of approval regarding the sewer plan that best serves the site. Therefore, staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public like to speak to this item? Please come up to the lectern and give us your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Glenn Stoffel, President of the Board of Managers of the Homeowners Association of the Villages of Morningside, which is the adjacent subdivision, a senior living community consisting of 136 families. I live at 8079 Sunrise Circle. Our homes are immediately adjacent to the proposed development of Thompson Thrift Development. Relying on the accuracy and enforceability of the commitments of the developer, in a letter dated August 19, 2019, which I believe Mr. Gamble sent to you as well, responding to 31 questions submitted to the developer at a May meeting we had with them, additional commitments of the developer during a meeting with our board yesterday, on August 21st, and the details of the master plan dated August 22 delivered to us on August 21st, our board supports the proposal as being the least objectionable of any present options. For example, we would prefer a development with direct access to Mallory Station or a traffic signal at the intersection of Mallory Station and Sunrise Circle if the development access is granted to Sunrise Circle, which is what the proposed development does. It comes through us. Some of those additional commitments, in addition to those you have in writing from Mr. Gamble already, are as follows. Unless prohibited by the city, the developer will open a construction entrance to the development directly from Mallory Station, not through Sunrise Circle. 2, the developer will include in its lease agreements a statement to the Oak Brook tenants that the Villages of Morningside is private property and should be dealt with accordingly, including encouragement that the tenants use the interior sidewalks of Oak Brook and discourage use of Morningside sidewalks. In case there are children, we want them to stay there rather than coming over where they're going to maybe run over by us 80-year-olds. The developer will provide to our board a copy of the lease agreement. All these are commitments already made by the developer to be used by Oak Brook, including restrictions and regulations within a reasonable time after it is prepared. The developer will make clear to its tenants that the garages are intended only for parking and not for storage, and enforce that restriction. The developer will plant and maintain appropriate shrubs, flowers, and bushes in the common area between Sunrise Circle and the development, and in the median in Sunrise Circle between Mallory Station and the roundabout. And their plan does meet the Envision Franklin requirements, as the staff has already indicated. Also, we've asked the developer to request of the city no parking signs along Sunrise Circle, because when you come in Sunrise Circle, the first building you come to is an assisted living facility, which sometimes has ambulances and fire trucks coming in, and we don't need any parking along Sunrise Circle. And so separately from those commitments that have been made, which we appreciate very much, they've had 2 separate meetings with us, plus the neighborhood meeting, which was held here at City Hall, and we appreciate this developer working with us, as has been the case. If we had our druthers, we'd rather have a traffic signal at the intersection, but the traffic, and attached to the letter was the traffic engineer saying, we're not going to do that.
Right. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak to this item? Yes, sir.
My name's Arthur Young. I live at 7034 Sunrise Circle. I am the president of the Board of Managers of Morningside 2, just adjacent to Glenn Stoffel. I was a participant in the meeting yesterday with Morningside 1, and our concerns are primarily the concerns that he raised just a minute ago. Traffic issues are, right at the top. Concerns, obviously, we'd like to have consideration for a traffic light. We appreciate the fact there's 3, exits, so to speak, from the development. But the concern is during rush hour, there's a lot of traffic between 4 and 6. There are a lot of 80-year-old drivers driving down through there in terms of with a lot of children. That's a concern. If we can in some way keep them on the property. We have a desire, I guess is the right way to say this. There's striping on Maury Station Road right now as you turn east out of Sunrise Circle. Some of our neighbors would like to have that striping removed so it would be more free to just move out there, move to the middle of the road, and then merge into the traffic to the right. That's something we'd like to have. With that said, I concur with what Glenn Stoffel has said. I support his report tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Art Reitz. I live in Morningside 2. My only concern is looking at a map of our establishment. We have 628 garages or garage spaces. The new development coming in will have 270. That adds 270 to our 628 possible automobiles. And that's going to be really crowded coming in and out of where we presently come in and out, particularly when there's the access road that they will apparently cut over, which we don't particularly want. Can they have their own access to Mallory Station Road, the same as Avenida got?
I believe they're relying on Avenida for one of their other access points, so.
Yeah, but can they have their
Yeah,
own?
no, and that's not something that I have
Okay.
any power to grant or, so.
It would be nice. They've got 2 roads right now going on that
Right.
property. If they could keep one of those so they could have direct access, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there someone here to represent the applicant tonight?
Again, for the record, my name is Jose Kreutz with Thompson Thrift Development, Indianapolis, Indiana. I think Mr. Stoffel did a fantastic job of describing our conversations and our willingness to commit to those items that are meaningful and impactful to our ability to be good neighbors to them. I think he enumerated what those commitments are, and we stand behind every one of those commitments. I think there's one that he may have forgotten, and that's, I think there was a discussion if our property were to enact declaration of covenants that we meet or exceed the requirements that his neighborhood has in place, and we're willing to do so. Mr. Young, I think, voiced very similar concerns. I think traffic is one of those concerns. We think that we will provide a missing link, a connection from Sunrise Circle to General George Patton Drive to our east. By virtue of us developing our property and providing that connection to Avenida, you now have a, for lack of a better descriptor, a frontage road that parallels Mallory Station, so you can get from Sunrise Circle to a light at general George Patton Drive. So we think that's a positive. We have a Franklin-based traffic engineer who has submitted a traffic analysis that looks at the impact of our project during the two critical times, the morning and the afternoon PM peak hours. And I think the conclusion of that report is that proposed project will have a minor impact on the intersections. To put things in context, we counted a total of 845 cars during the morning peak hour on Mallory Station. That's between 7:15 and 8:15 a.m. And by the traffic analysis calculations, we will have 10 vehicles turning into our community and 33 leaving. So that gives you a sense of the context of our fairly minimal impact. I think it was brought up, children on the property, and I think the concern there is that the neighborhood is a little bit older, and there are concerns about seeing kids playing on the sidewalks and on the streets. So we have committed to require our residents to acknowledge that that is private property. We also, our product does not lend itself to families with children necessarily. We don't have backyards. We don't offer tennis courts or playgrounds. Our design, our homes are geared towards executives and empty nesters who are looking to downsize and have a maintenance-free lifestyle, not for a family that has a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. I think there was a question about just the proximity, I think, to Sunrise and how that affects the access to our site. I think the decision was made by city engineering that a curb cut, an access point to our community would be located too close to Sunrise Circle, and the two would conflict with each other. I think that decision was made a long time ago when Avenida, the senior housing age-restricted project, came through, and they were granted an access on Mallory Station, and they were required to provide a cross-access easement to connect to what was undeveloped property, which is the property that we propose our project on. Having said that, I'm happy to answer any other questions or comments that anyone may have.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen with staff comments.
I got Jimmy with a motion
I'll second.
and Scott second. Is there any discussion?
I have a few questions.
Okay, Jimmy.
Jimmy, I was going to ask you regarding the engineering and the traffic. And is there enough warrants there to have a light?
We could do a warrant analysis. Per the traffic study, the impacts weren't that much as the gentleman spoke of, but typically a four-leg intersection is more likely to hit those warrants. But it's certainly something we could look at, taking this traffic study they sent us, and likely it wouldn't be warranted strictly to how close it is to Franklin Road. Due to the backup on that road, you probably wouldn't want that signal inhibiting that intersection any more than it already does. So it's a little too close, so a lot of those factors will play in, but we can certainly study it.
Is that entrance going into Morningside Circle, is that right? Is that right in, right out, or no, that would be full access?
It's full access.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye, and this is to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. All right, you guys ready to get started again? If those who are exiting, if you'll take your conversations outside, we would really appreciate it. All right, we will move to item number 13. Consideration of Resolution 2019-74, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of 4331 Long Lane by the City of Franklin. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is a City of Franklin drafted plan of service for the property being considered for the annexation at 4331 Long Lane. The plan of services outlines how infrastructure will need to be provided to serve the property of approximately 58 acres. Water is located within the Millcrofton Utility District. Water availability, adequate fire flow, and pressure must be approved prior to development. Reclaimed water will be required to be extended to serve the properties. The property is within the Goose Creek Sewer Basin. Development will be required to extend sewer mains as part of any development. Access to the property shall be provided from Long Lane. Per the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, Goose Creek Bypass extends through this parcel. During the development process, the city will work with the owner to facilitate the appropriate right-of-way for this extension. No additional manpower or equipment will be necessary for either fire or police protection, and development should comply with the Regional Commerce Design Concept and its transitional elements as outlined in Envision Franklin. Therefore, staff recommends favorably to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience wants to speak on this item? If you will come forward. All right, I seeing none, then is there someone representing the applicant? Excuse me.
Hello, my name is Greg Gamble. I'm representing the applicant and owner of the property. And it's a little bit unusual. Typically, when we're asking for an annexation request of a piece of property this size, we would come forward with a development plan associated with it. In this case, other properties within this area are being considered for potential annexation. And so that we didn't have a hole in the big picture, we thought it'd be appropriate to bring it forward now and request state residential zoning. So I appreciate your consideration. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Peterson?
I think this is one of the areas where there will be property that remain in the county that would be now totally surrounded by city property.
You speaking of the Ag Center property?
No, I'm not. I think there's some,
That's in the city already.
Oh, that's right,
that's
I'm
already in
sorry.
the city.
There-
Is there, see,
There will be 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels between the Ag Center to the west and this property that will be in the county still.
Right. Okay, any other comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 14, consideration of resolution 2019-75, a resolution to annex property at 4331 Long Lane, consisting of 58 acres, property located south of Long Lane and north of Paytonsville Road, and adjoining the city limits within the southeast part of the urban growth boundary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that title took care of most of my staff report, but I'm going to read it anyway. The site proposed to be annexed is approximately 58 acres, and it is adjacent to the City of Franklin's southeastern boundary. The property is south of Long Lane and east of Interstate 65. The property is within the urban growth boundary and is located in Envision Franklin's Regional Commerce Design Concept. A separate plan of services and zoning requests accompany this annexation request, and as the applicant stated in the previous item, there is no development plan associated with this parcel at this time. Staff recommends favorably to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
All right, anyone in the audience want to speak to this item? If you'll come forward and please tell us your name and where you live. And like I mentioned earlier, if you can keep your comments to 2 minutes or less, we'd appreciate it. To the podium, I'm sorry.
My name is Gianna Truman. I actually live in the town of Nolensville, but I'm here as a representative of the owner, Keith and Rita Hammock of 4325 Long Lane. And they're one of those parcels that fits that section that will be annexed, and we just want to let you know that we support that, and our intent is to apply for annexation as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I see none, then we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 15, ordinance 2019-28, an ordinance to zone 58 acres, estate residential, hillside Hillcrest overlay, Goose Creek character overlay 4D district, for the property on Long Lane. And I won't say any more because it may take away from your report.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, thank you. This parcel, as I've said before, is identified in Envision Franklin as part of the regional commerce design concept. And although regional commerce proposes a higher intensity of uses than what is permitted in the estate residential zoning district, staff feels that this zoning request is appropriate, given the current use of the property. As there is no PUD development plan submitted at this time, staff feels it's appropriate to zone the annexed parcels as close to their current entitlements of the county zoning as possible. The current zoning is within the county is Municipal Growth Area 1, MGA 1. MGA 1 allows for agricultural, rural, and low-density residential development. In comparison, estate residential provides for very low-density detached residential development on large lots. Further, zoning this property is consistent with the zoning proposed for the 26 parcels within the vicinity of this property, currently proposed for annexation by referendum. Therefore, staff recommends favorably to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak on this item? No? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Applicant.
I'm sorry, we need someone from representing the applicant. Sorry, thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Again, Greg Gamble, representing the applicant, the landowner. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, we had a motion, I think.
Still have it.
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 16, Resolution 2019-78, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of several properties located south of Long Lane, east of Interstate 65, and outside of the southeastern boundary of the UGB, Franklin UGB. Staff?
Well, this is a little bit of a unique request, so I'm going to go through it. My staff report may get a little lengthy, but the city has received annexation requests for 26 properties in the Goose Creek Basin that are located outside the city's urban growth boundary. In order for these properties to be annexed, a referendum amongst the owners of the properties to be annexed must be held at the June, I think it was 11th, and the August 14th BOMA work sessions. These requests were discussed, but no action to actually hold the referendum has been taken at this time. There is a public hearing scheduled for Tuesday, August 27th, at the regular Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting, where the board will decide how they would like to proceed with these requests. However, it has been requested by the applicants that the referendum be held on October 22nd in conjunction with the Franklin municipal elections. In order to actually have the referendum in this timeline, if the board chooses to move forward on Tuesday night, we do need to go ahead and get the plan of services and the zoning moving forward to line up at those board meetings because they require some additional readings. So we are asking that the Planning Commission either recommend disapproval or approval of this item as well as the next item on tonight's agenda so that they can get in front of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So this item is a City of Franklin drafted plan of services for the 26 properties that are being considered as part of the proposed referendum for annexation. The plan of services outlines how infrastructure will need to be provided to serve the 26 properties of approximately 474 acres. Should the referendum pass, should the board decide to actually hold the referendum and should the referendum pass. The terms of the plan of services, the water is located within Mill Crofton Utility District. Water availability, adequate fire flow, and pressure must be approved prior to development of any of the parcels. The extension of reclaimed water infrastructure would be required to extend to serve any property pending jurisdiction of this area for reclaimed water. The property is within the Goose Creek and Mays Creek sewer basins. The owner of each property would be required to extend the sanitary sewer mains and interceptors necessary to provide service to the properties. These mains and interceptors shall be sized according to the expected demands of development when the development is submitted. And these basins would require a further sanitary sewer study to determine the sizing. Access to the property shall be provided from various existing roadways within the region. As properties develop, road improvements and road extensions shall be required in accordance with Connect Franklin. But there is no additional manpower or equipment necessary that has been identified for either fire or police protection at this point. Since the parcels lie outside the UGB, the Planning Commission would need to amend Envision Franklin to include these properties in the Envision Franklin plan and assign them design concepts after the annexation. So this is a little different process than normal. I'm happy to take any questions you have. The only additional consideration I have is that staff recommends recommending approval of this plan of service to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with a condition that an interlocal agreement with the county regarding the maintenance of roads and bridges in the area be drafted.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this item? If you'll come forward to the podium. Tell us your name and where you live.
My name is Pat Kemp, and I live at the very end of Pratt Lane. I have 52 acres there, and my son has 16. And we are so not interested in being annexed in because we're zoned commercial, agricultural, and we would love to stay that way.
Okay,
That's, just don't want to be annexed in.
okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Excuse, how will, if we are, how will that affect our taxes since we're zoned commercial, agricultural?
I think that's outside of the purview of this meeting, but you can definitely contact planning and they can probably help you.
I don't believe that your property is one of the ones that have been requested for annexation. We can only move forward with annexation if we have a property owner request, and I don't believe we received one
No,
from
you
you.
didn't.
So we cannot annex, the city cannot annex your property without your consent.
All right, thank you so much.
That answer that question then.
Yes, I'm Beth Lincoln. I live at 4498 Pratt Lane. My concern, if the people want to be in the city, that's fine. I'm not one of those right now. But we own 38 acres on that, in the middle of the Pratt Lane. And my concern is when Dave Ramsey was building, they had to come in through Pratt Lane. And our bridge that goes across the creek there could not do the weight limits. And they had to build a special annex road to go around that. I don't know how they can do that with the process that we have now because those properties are not up against that. And so I'm concerned about that because our little bridge, they had a lot of trouble with it, and that's why they had to make it the special assumptions. Also, I'm concerned about, we live on a 2-lane road, and it is narrow, and it does not have shoulders, and I am very concerned about the traffic volume that would be coming through that if the people chose to annex that and put more houses than typically would be on a 5-acre lot, which is most of those are 5-acre lots. They're grouped together as a family, and I understand that. But I'm just really concerned about that. I'm also I've made some phone calls and learned a lot about the sewer system and how we don't have to be on that. And like Pat too, we don't want to be in the city right now at this point, but that's not here or there. I do worry about the road and here, I go to work every day and I meet cars and trucks and dump trucks, and we dealt with the Ramsey stuff, but we worked through it, and they were very considerate of the people on our road, and I would hope that other people would do the same.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, I see none, then I'll hear from the applicant. I thought that was a city applicant.
My name is Greg Gamble, and I would like to speak just for a moment, whether it's from the applicant or just from the public. I have consolidated the owner affidavits for these requests. These owner affidavits were primarily put together word of mouth, friends, family, talking to each other. The timing of this is because it's an election year, and that these property owners, in order to be added into the urban growth boundary, have to do so by referendum. So that's coming up October 22nd. Planning staff has been great working with these property owners to help establish that timeline and the structure by which they would be able to vote. But that's the timing. The reason why there are not, that I'm aware of, development plans for these properties today. These properties to the south are in a sewer basin that would gravity flow to Berry Farms. The sewer right now crosses underneath I-65 at 2 points in Berry Farms. Pretty much where the two kind of wiggly lines are that you can see in the brown map. That's pretty much where those streams are that you would follow the gravity sewer. So no pump stations would be needed for these properties to the south. To the north, again, they're in a drainage basin that would gravity flow to the northern section of Berry Farms. The properties to the north are unique. They allow for the extension of Carruthers Parkway to the south. They would allow the extension of Goose Creek bypass to the east to connect over to Long Lane, creating an intersection of major arterial roads, allowing direct access to the interstate, where you wouldn't have to drive Long Lane around the Ag Center any longer. That's a long-range plan. That's off in the future. But by considering those properties as a part of the urban growth boundary of the city of Franklin, engineering can now study that. Planning can now study that. Another reason why no plans are being presented to you today on these properties is Envision Franklin has not been considered for these properties. That's another layer that needs to take place. And when you talked about density, roadway infrastructure improvements, bridges that aren't suitable, all of those things have to be taken into consideration with the next layer of planning. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then I will entertain a motion.
Move for approval of recommendation of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just have
Jennifer,
a
go ahead.
question for staff. As far as the urban growth boundary, as it's outlined in Envision Franklin, how was that originally put together?
So it's part of a large county growth planning process. There's actually what they call the convening committee that has to come together back in, I don't know the exact year, it was well before I started, but it's been about 20 years ago. The convening committee met once the state law was adopted that all counties would have a county growth plan. Convened various municipalities as well as county representatives, and the lines were drawn in the map. Now, logically, they would follow a sewer basin, or the drainage basins for the area. There are some areas where there are more political boundaries where property owners did not necessarily want to be in a municipality's urban growth boundary. And if you look at the map up there, the yellow and orange one, the kind of curvilinear lines represent the drainage basins, but some of these down in the Goose Creek area that follow parcel lines are those more political boundaries, where there were some decisions made to exclude properties in the drainage basin in order to get the urban growth boundary and the county growth plan passed during that time.
So that was made, those decisions were made 20 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
So it does bring up an interesting concern that another option to actually for annexation would be to first change the urban growth boundary and actually reconvene the committee to do so. But because that requires so many different participants and the county has to really request to actually convene the committee again, we don't think that that's a possibility in the foreseeable future to actually take that step first prior to annexation. So these property owners have decided to request the referendum process.
And so then the referendum, as far as how the county's involved, does the county have recourse to that?
Well, so the way the state law is written, the county does not vote on the annexation. Only the city that is being petitioned for annexation votes, or would actually take action to request that a referendum be held of the county election commission. But then when the referendum is held, it is the property owners that are to be annexed that would vote in the referendum.
Okay. Okay,
Does that help?
that does.
If I could just ask also, just to reiterate, if you would like to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, would you consider adding a condition that an interlocal agreement with the county for the maintenance of road and bridges be drafted?
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you.
I did, second.
You cool with adding that? Okay. All right, we've got an amended motion. Hold on one sec. So, was that an amendment to the motion, or was that revising the original motion?
I can do either, right?
Does it matter?
I think if you amend the original, that would be great.
Okay, so.
Well, I would amend my original motion to say, to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and that a condition of that would be the negotiation of the interlocal agreement with the county for road and bridge maintenance.
Okay,
Second.
proper second. All right, now discussion. Jimmy?
Oh, so can you give me, what's that really mean? Because the county doesn't always want to work with the city. And the city doesn't necessarily agree with what the county lays out. So does that create a stalemate, Emily?
Well, there's potential for that. I don't know that I can comment if that's going to happen or not, but there is the possibility that there will be people in the county and on their elected body that don't agree with this decision. However, the decision to actually hold the referendum has not been made at this point. That will be decided on how to move forward with the referendum request. That will be held on Tuesday of next week at 7 p.m.
So do we have more, I support this annexation, but are we shooting ourselves in the foot by adding that layer to it? Are we better off with bargaining with the county not to have that cooperation agreement requirement?
In terms of the interlocal agreement, well, state law requires that we actually draft that interlocal agreement. So we just were adding that in to make sure that, it may not happen until actually after the vote happens Tuesday night, but we will get to work with the county on that prior to any referendum actually being held. But
So
that's
you-
a state law requirement.
You prefer it, though, is what you're asking for, and it
Yes.
works better for Franklin then, in your opinion? Okay.
Okay, all right. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 17, consideration of ordinance 2019-30, an ordinance to zone 474 acres estate residential for the property located south of Long Lane, east of Interstate 65.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, actually, since the motion was amended previously, we need to go back and take a vote on the main motion as well.
I thought we just modified the main motion.
You
Wasn't that the-
actually moved to amend it.
Okay. Then we're back to the main motion. Unfortunately, I was thinking we had discussed that as an amendment of the main motion, but you're right. Okay. Then we have a main motion back to, that's been amended. Any discussion on the main motion as amended? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, item 17, ordinance 2019-30, an ordinance to zone 474 acres to ER Estate Residential for the property located south of Long Lane and east of Interstate 65.
This is the zoning associated with the 26 properties that have requested annexation, as with the last item regarding the plan of service. This ordinance would zone the 26 properties to estate residential, should the Board of Mayor and Aldermen decide to hold a referendum, and should that referendum pass. As described with the 4331 Long Lane item that was discussed earlier, the state residential zoning is what staff has found to be most comparable to the county zoning. And we feel that this would be the most appropriate route, given that no development is being proposed currently at this time.
Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this item? This feels very right-sided here. Y'all should sort of move over a little bit and split it up. These guys over here feel really lonely. All right, seeing none from the audience, and I don't know if do we have an applicant? Oh, okay, all right, then we'll move on. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second. Seconded, moves and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Adjourned.